Welcome back to another edition of Research Fantasy Presents our MLB DFS Pitcher Picks for Friday, April 28th. We are on the second day of draft day in the NFL. So this is going to be a really busy weekend the next couple of weeks. Q1 financials are dropping in the financial sector, so that's a lot of work for my real-time job. I got to stop saying it like that. My career, maybe I have two careers, I don't know. But regardless, it's going to be a busy couple of weeks, but I'm dedicated to continue to do these videos, run Research Fantasy, and ultimately attempt to achieve DFS glory every single night that we play. Really nice slate of games on Friday night here. We are looking at all new series that we haven't had yet this week. So it'll be interesting to see how those go. Obviously, big market game or big, the hitter parks we'd probably be looking at: Arizona, Milwaukee, Texas, Toronto, Yankees, lefties. So there's some pretty good potential for hitting tonight. Want to take a look at my favorite pitchers for tournament action. While I'm at it, just wanted to put out there for anybody who is playing NASCAR and struggling, or has wanted to play NASCAR but just really didn't know where to get started, we have begun to offer a $5 weekly NASCAR package. Has a lot of different things that will continuously add to it, and we'll always be looking for feedback from our users. That went live yesterday. That's over at researchfantasy.com under our premium services. Go ahead and check that out. But until then, let's talk my top 3 tournament pitching options tonight. I'm going to start off with Lance Lynn of the St. Louis Cardinals, 8,000. Now, Lynn is not a guy who's typically going to be found on a lot of lineups because his strikeout upside isn't exactly high. And that's something without a doubt that daily fantasy players might actually rely on too much. I get it, like strikeouts are the name of the game, but to me, I'd rather play the matchup, and if I think I could get someone who's going to go 7 innings, get me 6 strikeouts, and put up that win and quality start, especially since that's a category now on FanDuel, I don't have a problem going that route. And Lynn is one of those guys who's floating in the mid-tier tonight. 8K, not a bad price, going up against a Reds team that isn't the worst, but can be had. They've got some good left-handed bats, obviously, with Joey Votto. Scott Schebler hits with a lot of power, and Billy Hamilton can be a menace when he gets on base. But overall, I think that these are all guys, for the most part, outside of Votto, that Lynn shouldn't have too much of a time working around if his stuff is on. I do think he'll probably carry reasonable ownership because he does have 2 pretty solid games in his last 2. Did have 2 poor starts before that, but when you can get 5x from your pitcher, that's never a bad thing. I mean, if you look at guys like Kershaw, and if you're getting 5x from Kershaw, that's putting you at, 70 points typically. That's a lot to get from a pitcher, and I'm not comparing Lynn to Kershaw, and really it's not even a fair comparison to compare the prices because, yes, Kershaw might be expensive, but you're looking for the bats at that point to provide some level of safety. In this situation, we're looking at Lynn to get us that 5x, so we could look for some bats that are in a good position to do some damage tonight, and we'll be able to get a little higher dollar bat than we'd be able to get with one of the top dollar pitchers. So while there's not a big strikeout upside, I do not mind some exposure this evening to Lance Lynn. Moving on from there, perhaps one of my least favorite pitchers in all of Major League Baseball is a guy that we have to sit there and firmly consider tonight, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. He has not looked good at any point this season, and he's only faced 2 teams. So maybe maybe it's just an inability to pitch around those guys. He gets arguably his first good matchup this year at home against the San Diego Padres at 8,700 on FanDuel. I'm talking about Jeff Samardzija. And going into pretty much every game except for the Coors game, Samardzija was a guy who had been touted pretty high, and I was just petrified to use him because I know what he does. I know he goes out there, he'll get 7 or 8 strikeouts, but he'll make some absolutely ridiculous mistakes that put his team in peril. And I'm not even sure I love him tonight. He's definitely not someone I'm touching in my cash games. You can do that. That's fine. If you're convinced that the Padres are the worst team in baseball, which they may or may not be, and you think that this is going to be an easy walk in the park for Samardzija, by all means play him in your cash games, save a little bit of cash to spend elsewhere. I'm not doing it. His stats this season, and again, he has half of his games in 2 of the best hitter parks, but he's getting smashed by left-handed bats. And yes, I know that the Padres don't boast anyone really outside of Yangevis Solarte and Ryan Schimpf, who's hitting all of 114 this year. But a 519 WOBA, 30% fly ball rate, 44.4% home run to fly ball rate, and a 38.7 hard hit rate are not good signs. And yes, this is going to come down, but this was with 2 outings in San Francisco as well. So it's not like an isolated thing. In the San Francisco games, he gave up 3 and 4 runs. In the Coors and Chase games, he gave up 6 and 7. Now, look, the Padres, I think, are an improved team from last year. I don't think I'm looking at them in the same way that I was. But Samardzija with the strikeout upside, good park, not the greatest team. I'm not going to argue against using him in tournaments. I think the most of the reason why he's on this list is because I'm trying to assure myself that I'm not making a bad move. All right, last up, a statistic to throw out there. There are, I think, 11 guys. Let me get the exact stat. There are 7 pitchers on this slate with a K9 over 10. That's a lot in terms of tournament upside, and I know we're early in the year, and I have started using 2017 data because I just think for a lot of guys, there's enough change that's taken place, at least in the short term, that I don't really like the results I was getting from the 2016 data, and since I've moved on to 2017, I've been winning a lot more. So, 7 guys with K9s. So there's a lot of guys, if you're looking for strikeout upside, that you could go to in tournaments tonight. I think the guy I'm going to be looking at most is Max Scherzer. And this wasn't necessarily an easy decision because, number one, standing on the mound opposing him is going to be Jacob deGrom, who's also an extremely talented pitcher. Furthermore, you're looking at a situation where the Nationals are traveling on no rest across the country from Colorado back to Washington to take on one of the better pitchers in baseball. To me, that kind of just seems like it's going to be tough for them to score some runs tonight. We see teams all the time with this road burnout the first night they play somewhere else, and especially coming from Colorado. Like, it's been a lock for me to just take who's ever pitching against Colorado when they leave Coors the first night. Tonight won't be one of those nights because Arizona's not that far away and it's still a hitter's park. But I do have some legitimate concerns about the run support that Scherzer's going to be able to get. However, this Mets lineup is banged up and bruised, and it looks like Cespedes probably not going to be in the game. So now you're looking at a situation where Cespedes is out, Lucas Duda is out. They're having to replace all of Lucas Duda's not one of their better hitters, but at the same time, point I'm getting at here is it's a lineup that Scherzer will be facing that isn't exactly intimidating. So I just really don't mind using him. His high strikeout upside is what comes into play here for me. I know there's a lot of other options on the board tonight. Like I said, if we've got 7 guys with K9s over 10, we've got no shortage of people to choose from, but ultimately I would like to take the safety of Scherzer and the upside of Scherzer even in tournaments. So once again, that will bring us to Lance Lynn, Jeff Samardzija, Max Scherzer. Thanks for watching today. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel below. Head over to researchfantasy.com. Sign up for our MLB mailing list. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Research and Win. And join us again tomorrow.